John D. Rockefeller, the story of America's first oil tycoon and philanthropist. John Davison Rockefeller is one of the most iconic names in the business history of the United States. Known both for his role in founding the modern oil industry and his vast philanthropic contributions. Rockefeller was a man of contradictions. Some saw him as a ruthless monopolist, while others viewed him as a visionary who transformed the economic landscape of his time. Early years, from poverty to ambition. John Davison Rockefeller was born on July 8, 1839, in Richford, a small town in New York. His childhood was marked by the contradictions of an unstable home. His father, William Big Bill Rockefeller, was a charismatic but erratic man. A traveling salesman promising miracle cures who often left the family to pursue his own interests. On the other hand, his mother, Eliza Davison, was deeply religious, strict, and hardworking. In this divided household, John absorbed two crucial lessons: the importance of self-discipline and the shrewdness to survive in a competitive world. From a young age, Rockefeller showed a keen mind for numbers and business. His family had little, but Eliza instilled in him a sense of financial responsibility. She taught him to save even the smallest pennies. And John quickly adopted a lifelong habit, meticulously keeping a record of every dollar he earned and spent. This habit not only demonstrated his diligence, but also his ambition to rise above the circumstances of his childhood. When the family moved to Cleveland, Ohio, in 1853, Rockefeller was only 14 years old. In this burgeoning industrial city, young John found a world full of opportunities. At 16, he got his first job as an assistant bookkeeper at Hewitt and Tuttle, an agricultural products firm. He earned 50 cents a day, a modest salary even for the time, but Rockefeller saw this as the beginning of something much greater. He was determined not just to make a living, but to build a fortune that would lift him above the hardships he had known. As he worked long hours, he also developed a work ethic that set him apart from his peers. While other young men dreamed of a comfortable life, Rockefeller was already planning his future, meticulously saving every penny he didn't need to spend. When he was offered a promotion, it came as no surprise. John was known for his precision, organizational sense, and remarkable negotiating skills. These abilities placed him in a unique position to seize the opportunities of the growing American economy. The rise of Standard Oil. Rockefeller's entry into the oil industry was both a strategic gamble and a visionary decision. In 1859, the same year Edwin Drake drilled the first oil well in Pennsylvania, Rockefeller had already identified the potential of oil as a world-changing resource. Instead of focusing on extraction, which was a volatile business, Rockefeller bet on refining, where he saw a margin of control and sustained growth. In 1870, he founded the Standard Oil Company with his brother William and a few partners. From the beginning, Rockefeller sought absolute efficiency. He built modern refineries that produced high-quality kerosene, a product that quickly became essential for lighting homes and businesses across the United States. But what truly set Rockefeller apart was his ability to consolidate the market. In an industry characterized by fierce competition and chaos, Rockefeller imposed order. He absorbed competitors through strategic acquisitions, using tactics ranging from amicable negotiations to financial pressures. By controlling every stage of the process, refining, transportation, and distribution, Standard Oil became an unrivaled empire. By 1880, Rockefeller controlled 90% of the U.S. refinery and pipeline market. This level of dominance not only brought immense profits, but also a power few had ever wielded in the history of capitalism. However, the price of this success was high. Criticism and enemies were quick to follow. The dissolution of Standard Oil and the birth of ExxonMobil on May 15, 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a historic ruling. The Standard Oil Company had to be dissolved. After years of investigations and trials under the Sherman Antitrust Act, The company was found to have exercised monopolistic power that stifled competition and harmed consumers. For Rockefeller, the news was bittersweet. For over 40 years, he had worked to build an empire that controlled every aspect of the oil business. Now, his creation was being dismantled. Standard Oil was divided into 34 independent companies, including firms that later became industry giants such as Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, and Amoco. However, what seemed like a blow to Rockefeller's empire turned out to be an unexpected victory. By breaking up Standard Oil, shareholders, including Rockefeller, received proportional shares in each of the new companies. These companies, freed from the constraints of monopoly, thrived in an increasingly large and lucrative market. The combined value of the shares quickly soared, exponentially increasing Rockefeller's personal fortune. The dissolution of Standard Oil marked a turning point in the U.S. economy. It was the beginning of a century of stricter government regulation and a warning to other emerging monopolies. But it also birthed a legacy. ExxonMobil, one of the largest companies in the world, owes its origins to the breakup of Standard Oil. This chapter in Rockefeller's life symbolized both the peak and the end of an era. Though officially retired from business, his influence remained immense. He had demonstrated that even government intervention could not stop the accumulation of wealth when combined with strategic vision and persistence. Business tactics and criticism. Rockefeller's business tactics were as brilliant as they were ruthless. He negotiated secret deals with railroads, securing lower transportation rates than his competitors. This allowed him to offer prices others couldn't match, forcing them to sell or go bankrupt. While effective, this approach made him the favorite villain of many critics of the time. Competitors accused him of predatory practices, while journalists like Ida Tarbell attacked him in a series of articles exposing Standard Oil's operations. Tarbell's work, The History of the Standard Oil Company, was one of the first examples of investigative journalism in the United States and painted Rockefeller as a ruthless monopolist suppressing competition in his quest for total control. Rockefeller, however, saw his actions differently. To him, consolidation was a way to bring stability to a chaotic industry. He argued that his control ensured quality, reduced costs, and benefited consumers. Competition is a sin, he said bluntly, and he acted accordingly. Philanthropy and Legacy. As his fortune grew, so did his commitment to philanthropy. Influenced by his Baptist faith and belief in the gospel of wealth, Rockefeller viewed his immense fortune as a gift from God to be used for the greater good. In 1892, he founded the University of Chicago, which became one of the world's most prestigious institutions. He also established the Rockefeller Foundation in 1913, whose mission was to promote the well-being of humanity. Under this premise, he funded medical research that led to crucial advancements, such as the eradication of yellow fever and malaria in various parts of the world. His philanthropy wasn't limited to public health. He also supported education in rural areas, scientific research, and the creation of public libraries, following the example of his contemporary and occasional rival, Andrew Carnegie. Personal life. Despite his wealth, Rockefeller led a relatively simple life. He married Laura Spelman in 1864, and their marriage was a strong union based on shared values. They had 5 children, though one of them, Alice, died in infancy. At home, Rockefeller was a warm man devoted to his family. He taught his children the importance of humility and hard work, values that John D. Rockefeller Jr. carried forward as he continued his father's philanthropic legacy. Rockefeller was also known for his peculiar habit of giving away dimes to children and adults as a gesture of generosity. While some saw this as a public relations tactic, for him, it was a simple way to share his fortune with those around him. Relationships with other magnates, Andrew Carnegie and J.P. Morgan. In the theater of 19th century American capitalism, few figures were as dominant as John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, and J.P. Morgan. Each left an indelible mark on the economy and society, but their interactions were often a mix of respect, rivalry, and calculated strategy. Andrew Carnegie, the Steel King, and Rockefeller had markedly different personalities. Carnegie was outgoing, talkative, and delighted in publicly sharing his success. Rockefeller, in contrast, was reserved, methodical, and preferred to work behind the scenes. Both men represented the extremes of capitalism in their time. Carnegie built his fortune by selling steel, a material essential to urban and industrial growth. Rockefeller, on the other hand, perfected the production of kerosene and later gasoline, energizing the modern world. Despite their differences, the two magnates shared an intense rivalry. Although they were never directly in competition, their legacies were frequently compared. Carnegie, in particular, often provoked Rockefeller, boasting that his philanthropy was more generous. On one occasion, Carnegie jokingly claimed that his goal was to donate more money during his lifetime than Rockefeller had accumulated. Rockefeller, known for his unflappable composure, rarely responded but surely took note of the remarks. With J.P. Morgan, the relationship was more complex. Morgan, the most powerful financier of his era, was known for consolidating industries and controlling vast sectors of the economy through strategic mergers. Although Morgan and Rockefeller didn't always align in their interests, they shared a common vision. A controlled and efficient market was better than a chaotic and competitive system. However, Morgan could not help but feel envious of the reach of Rockefeller's empire. Morgan was the titan of Wall Street, but even his influence paled in comparison to the dominant Standard Oil held in the oil industry. On several occasions, Morgan tried to approach Rockefeller to forge strategic alliances, but Rockefeller, who valued his independence, avoided relying on Wall Street financiers. While they maintained a professional and respectful relationship, both men understood that they were destined to compete indirectly for control of the U.S. economy. Public relations, the art of reputation. Rockefeller's public image was always a battleground. For much of his life, he was viewed as an industrial villain, a man whose colossal wealth was met with suspicion and resentment by many. The press, led by journalists like Ida Tarbell, portrayed him as a corporate despot willing to destroy any obstacle to expand his dominance. Rockefeller, however, understood that his legacy could not be defined solely by power and wealth. In a strategic turn, he hired Ivy Lee, one of the first public relations advisors, to transform his image. Lee introduced pioneering tactics in managing public opinion, emphasizing Rockefeller's philanthropic contributions and highlighting his human side. One of the most memorable strategies was Rockefeller's habit of giving away dimes to children and adults alike. While some saw this as a calculated maneuver, the gesture helped soften his image. The story of Mr. Rockefeller, the man who gives away dimes, became a symbol of his generosity and his connection with ordinary people. Additionally, Ivy Lee organized interviews and public appearances where Rockefeller presented himself as a kind and wise elderly man, devoted to gardening and his grandchildren. These tactics contrasted sharply with the image of the ruthless businessman who had dominated headlines for decades. But the public relations strategy wasn't just a matter of appearances. It also reflected a genuine shift in Rockefeller's priorities. In his later years, he was deeply committed to philanthropy and wanted his legacy to be associated with the betterment of humanity, not just the accumulation of wealth. The result of this effort was remarkable. Although Rockefeller remained a controversial figure, his reputation evolved over time. For many, he transformed from a symbol of ruthless monopoly to a visionary and benefactor who helped shape the future of modern philanthropy. Conclusion: John D. Rockefeller's life was a complex tapestry of ambition, power, and redemption. From his strained relationships with other titans of capitalism, such as Carnegie and Morgan, to the forced dissolution of his empire, his journey was filled with drama and lessons. But it was his ability to adapt, reinvent, and seize upon every challenge that defined his place in history. Through revolutionary business tactics and innovative public relations strategies, Rockefeller not only transformed the oil industry, but also the perception of what a man of his wealth and power could accomplish for the good of society. His story is not just that of one man, but of a nation in transformation, seeking to balance progress with equity.